depends on fire in the preacher. And to bore for Jesus is a sin. I was talking with teenagers, and they find Jesus Christ the most exciting person ever. They are thrilled with Jesus. But very often they say, church is boring. It's deadly dull. And for the preacher to get up and be deadly dull and boring is a sin. Jesus isn't boring. To bore for Jesus is a sin. Now, how do you get a word from God? Prepare yourself, don't just prepare the message. You're looking after children in Sunday school. You're leading a ladies' group. You're speaking to the congregation. You're taking a meeting for men. How do you prepare? You prepare the message, but more important is the messenger. Prepare yourself. See that you're right with God. Be clean, you who bear the vessels of the Lord. Now, sometimes it will happen that you're suddenly bounced on and asked to speak, and there's been no time to prepare. Well, it's always good to have some bait on your line. Always have something up your sleeve, just in case you're told, oh, by the way, at the end of this hymn, you're speaking. And it came out of the blue, no one ever gave you any warning. Communication breaks down sometimes, doesn't it? And always have some bait on your line. Hazel said to me a while back, aren't you ever afraid that you won't have anything to say? And I said, no, because I will always give my testimony and tell how Jesus Christ has saved me from being, when I was a student, editor of the rag magazine, which was called Lucifer, and I had to go and see the Vice-Chancellor because he said it was pornographic. Now, Jesus has saved me. And so when Hazel said to me, aren't you afraid that you'll perhaps never have anything to say? My reply is no, because I will always give my testimony, and the devil doesn't like that, because it glorifies God. How do you get a word from God? Well, sometimes it grows on you. You get a little seed thought. I can remember one time when I was asking the Lord for a message, and he gave me one word, inconvenient. And that's all I got, inconvenient. So I meditated and thought about that, and thought how, yes, Lord, how often we find it inconvenient. Inconvenient to pray, inconvenient to go and visit someone in hospital, inconvenient to study because I would rather do this. Inconvenient. Sometimes the word of God grows on you. Sometimes a text gets hold of you and you simply have to preach on it. You might be reading something in the Bible and there's a verse there and you think, that'd be good to speak on. Or someone is speaking or reading the Bible and some verse is illuminated for you. And you think, I'd like to unpack that or explore that. A particular verse. And you nurse it and rehearse it and talk to God about it. Maybe study the context and the background. Sometimes we might preach on practical themes relevant to people's lives. In our home church, our pastors said, I think we need to do a series covering practical issues. And so we looked at things like marriage and bringing up children and the world of work and issues like that. And our pastor said, I'm going to speak on debt because there are a lot of believers who are struggling with debt. And as he preached that morning, and he didn't know this from counselling, and there were visitors in the congregation, as our pastor was preaching, suddenly out of the blue, God gave him a word of knowledge. And he said, what I'm saying is relevant. There are 4 of you in deep debt in this congregation. And I know who you are. And there is a means of helping you. We have our church secretary who is trained in debt counselling, and if you need help, and you do, she will be able practically to help.